This is episode 447 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam Abuel-Samad from Telemetry.
And I am Nicole Wakelin from Test Miles and Top Speed.
And I'm Perry Stern, doing freelance work for a number of places like U.S. News, Capital One, JD Power, etc.
And
he's our stand-in because Robbie now sounds like Sam did a few weeks ago.
Or perhaps even worse.
Probably worse, yes.
Yeah, because he was rehearsing with his bands over the weekend and went into rehearsal with a sore throat and did not turn out well. And they have a big show on Friday night, so he's got no
crossed.
Voice right now. Hopefully by Friday he'll be able to sing again.
So,
but
poor Robbie.
In the meantime, we got you, Perry.
No, the added bonus for all of us.
Well, and it's good because last week all three of us were in New York for the New York Auto Show, and unlike most North American auto shows of late, there was actually a lot of stuff there. There was a bunch of new stuff.
It was kind of cool because it didn't feel quite as frenetic as like old school auto shows when we just go from conference to conference to conference and never stop. But you did have stuff to see. I kind of think the biggest thing of the whole, that they pulled it off was Hyundai with their new concept where they told nobody anything, no pictures, no hints, no nothing. Even the people who were hosted by Hyundai were like, I don't know. Like they didn't tell anybody anything. It was like you had no idea. So if you wanted to know when they revealed it, you literally had to show up for their conference.
Which is how it used to be. I mean, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I'd go to the Detroit Auto Show and there'd be 50, 60 new cars debuted and we wouldn't know any of them until the wraps came off. Which was a lot more work, but it's exciting. You're right. It was almost like that was the star of the show. The fact that it was a surprise. Right.
That they actually, and one of my favorite things was we were all trying to guess what it was. Like everybody, what do you think it is? Is it a truck? Is it an SUV? Is it a full-size truck? Is it a mid-size truck? Is it nobody really knew. Nobody knew. And I loved that they were guessing by the journalists going because there were a couple of truck journalists
Tim Esterdahl was there.
I did the same thing. Exactly.
Yeah. And what is he? Pickup truck talk and SUV plus SUV pickup truck talk. I messed it up.
Pickup plus
talk.
SUV talk or something like that.
Yes. Anyway, he was there and we all look around like, oh, Tim's there. It's got to be a truck. They invited Tim. It was not a truck. It was an off-road SUV concept. So I'm like, oh, you
It was all part of the distraction.
It was. And they even kind of said, we sort of tried to really throw you guys off your game. It worked.
Well, even right up to the last second. Yeah.
We didn't know.
Jose Munoz was there. He was doing the introductory part of the presentation. He was talking about kind of where Hyundai's business is right now and what's going on. And they put up this video, and he mentioned, we're doing a mid-size pickup truck. And so everybody, then immediately thought, because the night before, a bunch of us that were hosted by Hyundai, we were at a dinner at Genesis House. And I'd say it was probably about 50-50 between truck and off-roader.
Oh, yeah?
And he mentioned pickup truck, and everybody thought, oh, okay, they're going to show us a pickup truck. And then they pulled the curtain up on this thing, and it was an SUV. But we'll come back to that in a few minutes. That's what we call a teaser in the business.
Okay.
But we'll come back to what Hyundai actually showed us. In the meantime, Nicole, what have you been driving?
I've been driving, and I was saying this before the show. I'm so excited that I actually... I'm holding it up because I'm so happy because I know you're doing video. That I actually have not quite a Monroney, but almost better because it's got like a picture and everything. I have, and I can read it. The 2026 Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat Jailbreak all-wheel drive.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
But it's not the right color of the one that you're driving, though.
No, the one that I'm driving, and you can't have everything. This one is bright blue. The one I have is sort of like a sparkly, it's not red, it's more like a burgundy. It's really pretty, but it does still have, I think this one has a whole black hood on it. Mine just has like the racing stripe that goes all the way across it. That's kind of cool. So
because midsize SUVs need racing stripes,
right? Well, this one does.
Well, you got 710 supercharged horsepower. You do,
right? 710 horsepower, 645 pound-feet of torque. It's a 6.2 liter Hemi V8. It's stupid. It's stupid that they did this. It is ridiculous that they did this. This is a 3-row SUV with like room for your whole family, nice and comfy. It's absolutely the most ridiculous thing ever, and I love it. Like, it's just perfect that they did it. There's no logical reason why this should have been built. It's just somebody showed up and said, you think we could do this? And I'm like, that's dumb. When do we start? Like, it's brilliant. I love it. I am very glad that it's still around. I'm glad that, just a crazy, powerful Dodge vehicle is there. I know that the Durango is just aging something fierce, but I don't care. 710 horsepower, 645 pound-feet of torque, 3 rows of seating. I'll take it, just like it is. And it has the drive modes. I think there's 7 drive modes on this. 7 distinct drive modes. Thank you, handy dandy cheat sheet. Auto, sport, track, snow, tow, eco, and valet. And you want that valet so that your guy doesn't go cruising around having a good time while you're having dinner and trash your SUV. That's brilliant. But I drove it in auto and in sport, mostly sport. It is so obnoxiously, beautifully loud when you put it in sport. Even when you first start it, it just sounds fantastic. In fact, I went to take the picture. That's why you know what color I had, Sam. You must have seen the picture I put up today. I was planning on taking pictures and doing a couple of social media videos. I spent 45 minutes at the little park in Merrimack, New Hampshire, because everybody was coming. Hey, nice car. Can I take a look? Hey, nice car. Everybody was there at the dog park. Everybody needed to see the car. So they know what it is. People recognize a little Hellcat on there, and it means something to people. It's really fun to drive. The power is ridiculous. The sound is ridiculous. It's comfortable. It has really heavily bolstered seats. And I was thinking, like, you want that if you were actually going to track the car, which I guess you could. I don't know who's going to do that. I would have find the guy who does and just be like, why? But you could. So it has really heavy bolstering on the seats, but it's not that kind of bolstering like you get in a short, low little sports car where it's so much so that when you sit down, you're like, thunk, like you can't get out. You have to like lean forward and then get out because you're like it's holding you in. It's kind of perfect for what it is. I really like this car. I've always liked the Durango. I think the one thing is that it's starting to it hasn't been changed in forever, but they're still selling.
It started production in 2010, the current generation.
2010.
That's kind of a Stellantis way to go. I mean, look at the 300C, the Charger, all of those were around as long, and they were still good.
And they're still good. And the thing is, they're setting like sales records with this thing right now. It's doing so well. So I can see them saying like, we don't really need to do other stuff. We're selling it like as fast as we can make it. Let's just have it go and do its thing. So
how's your fuel economy?
Well, I didn't even look. Oh my God. I'm not even looking because it's going to be.
It has some. Not much, but it has some.
Yeah, it does go a certain number of miles per gallon. It's
horrifically
gallons per mile.
It's horrifically low. Yeah. Oh, wait, I have the official numbers. Oh my gosh. God. City highway combined is 12, 17, 13. So this might be an exceptionally expensive car to drive right now, where gas prices near me just crept over $4. I know that's cheap for a lot of people, but we don't see those kinds of gas prices. It just was $4.05 when I got home yesterday, and I was kind of bummed. Like, there we go, over $4. Top speed, though, look at this, 180 miles an hour. That's for the guy who's going to track it. 0 to 60, 3.5 seconds. These are ridiculous numbers.
That's fun for the whole family.
Fun for the whole thing. Can you imagine if your kids, and there's a launch control, you imagine you launch control with your kids in the back. Whee! They would have so much fun. I love this. Now, the problem is it is not an inexpensive vehicle. So the base price on this is $79,995. As equipped, the one I had, $95,740. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of money for an SUV. Now, granted, it truly is a performance SUV, but you're right up there in luxury car territory at $95,000. So I don't. But you got a Hellcat on the side of your door, and it says jailbreak on the like this sticker on the dashboard. So what more do you want for $95,000? I mean,
jailbreak should be worth at least a couple thousand just to have the sticker.
At least that much, easily. So, and it is nice to drive. It's fun on the highway. It's fun on side roads. It handles really well. You put it in sport and it does tighten up. So even though it's a big vehicle. It doesn't feel super top heavy. It actually is a pleasant SUV to drive, even if you're just cruising along responsibly and not trying to be like, yeah, Hellcat. So
You can do that?
you can.
Wow.
So I did enjoy it. I would buy it, but 95,000 is a little steep for my blood. But it's beautiful. I love it. Keep building weird stuff, Dodge.
What about you, Perry? Did you drive anything this week?
I did. I've got a Toyota Tundra, four-wheel drive crew cab TRD Pro. So this is their, high performance off-road truck, designed to go, at good speeds when the road is not good, or basically when you don't have a road. And I like it. It's somewhat subtle because it's this dark gray color, but it does have the big brake calipers, the red tow hooks. Is it red tow hooks? I'm trying to remember now.
I think
But
so.
it says, TRD Pro in big letters on the back of it, but it's still it's funny, it doesn't really look like it's raised up that high. But
Hmm.
it's got the off-road tires, it's got the off-road suspension, and the coolest thing in this truck are I guess they're called the isodynamic seats.
Oh, it
So
has those crazy seats.
it does. Both front seats have their own independent suspension. And so you can adjust. There's little switches in the back of the seat, and they look really cool. They've got these two like cross pieces that have little gauges on them, and you can actually change them from off-road to on-road. So when you're on the pavement, it's a little firmer. It doesn't move around as much. When you're off-road, you put it to off-road, and it absorbs all the bumps, and you can actually rock around in the seat, and it moves on its own. And so I've actually have it in off-road because I found that's actually more comfortable on any
Really?
road. So I've just kind of left it there. And the interesting thing is there's a little pump you can actually change the pressure if you want. You can make it stiffer or make it looser. It's such a wild feature. I mean, it's not cheap. It's about $1,000 to add those
Is it
seats
worth
on.
$1,000, Perry?
Well, given the fact that the whole price of this truck is $82,000, $1,000 here and there is really not that much difference.
Okay.
Um, but I took it. There's, where I live, there's a lot of gravel roads that are now really bad shape after the winter. So, I mean, potholes that are, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches deep, and they're big, and there's a lot of them. And I had taken a Bronco Sport out on some of my favorite roads a couple of weeks ago, and I thought over 25 miles an hour, I thought the whole thing was going to shake loose. I mean, it was really bad roads. And so I took the Tundra on the same roads, 55 miles an hour, and it just smooth as. So, I mean, it's amazing how well between the seats and the truck suspension, it is designed to handle roads like that. And so if you lived in a place like that, where, the roads are not paved and they're not good, I mean, having something like this could improve your life dramatically. Um, and it's comfortable inside. It has red leather interior. In fact, I thought this was quite amusing. Yesterday, I looked outside and there was a female cardinal sitting on top of the truck looking in the sunroof. I think it saw the red.
Got a little
Apparently,
confused.
apparently so. But it's nice to drive actually on the freeway. It's surprisingly smooth and comfortable. It's got a ton of power. It's a hybrid. It's getting, I don't know, 14 or 15 miles per gallon right now, but a lot of that's been off-road, or at least off pavement. And it's pretty enjoyable to drive. I actually, like the hybrid system. I would have expected that it would be, even on the freeway, it still wasn't getting much over 17, 18 miles per gallon. The actual EPA numbers are 18 city, 20 highway, 19 combined. So I was about where it expects. Um, and granted, it's a big truck, and it's got off-road tires and all of that. But overall, good power, and really enjoyable to drive.
Yeah, I've never gotten over 18 with any of the current Tundras or Sequoias with the hybrid system. It's not a particularly efficient powertrain. especially when you compare it to the F-150 hybrid, which you own one of those. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, a typical just city driving, we get between 23 and 24 miles per gallon in the
Wow.
F-150 hybrid.
yeah,
Um, and it's and yeah, I've noticed, just in the little bit of time I drove the Toyota, um, it doesn't drive on electric near as much as the F-150 does. I mean, the
Hmm.
F-150, you can actually cruise through town and it'll just sit there with 0 RPMs, where when I lift off the throttle on the Toyota, it will drop down to shut off the engine, but you breathe on the throttle, the engine's back on again.
yeah. The Tundra is a lot heavier than the F-150 too. I think I seem to recall it's about like 600 or 700 pounds heavier.
Wow.
Might even be more than that.
That would make a difference.
Yes, it
Yeah,
would.
trying to find it here. Yeah, I mean it's significantly heavier, which I'm sure contributes to the fuel economy difference. Even though, they make roughly, pretty close to the same power and torque, but they're just,
Yeah.
the one is just significantly more efficient than the other. Um, so, if you, obviously we know which choice you made when it came to buying a truck, but if you were
But I
going
had
to buy
different
one,
choices.
yeah, I mean, if you were going to buy one today, I mean, would you go for a Tundra or an F-150?
I like that. I mean, for for what I do, for towing and for just driving as a daily driver, F-150, no question.
Yeah.
Because they're both very comfortable inside. They both have all the advanced safety features. They're very comparable, but I think that the hybrid system in the F-150 is better. The other thing is that, which I use in the F-150, is it has a 7.2 kilowatt generator built in, which still shocks me that no one else has done what Ford did. And I can run, 30 amps to my travel trailer and run air conditioning anywhere with my truck. So it's an amazing game changer that no one seems to remember or take advantage of, which always surprises me. But anyway, yeah, I would
Well,
take the app for it.
yeah, I mean the Tundra is the only other hybrid full size pickup truck that's available right now. GM does do that on their electric trucks, but those sell
Right.
in very small numbers.
Hmm.
But I suspect that probably when the next generation GM trucks come out, I think probably later this year they're going to be introduced.
So heard.
They will probably add a feature like that on those trucks, I would guess.
It certainly makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Um, well, anything else on the Tundra before we move on?
No, I think it is pricey. Like I said, $82,000 for a full size truck. But you know, everything's pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's cheap anymore? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
All right. Well, I had the Volkswagen Jetta GLI Autobahn edition,
Mm.
um, which was finished in a what do they call it, Monterey blue. Um, and when my wife came home and she saw this thing in the driveway, she said, "Man, that car is so boring looking."
Oh gosh. She's not
and,
wrong.
and as a former Jetta driver, you know, she has a right to her opinion. And to be honest, it's not a particularly exciting looking car. Although you do get that nice slash of red in the front fascia there on the GLI, under the around the grill, so that gives it a touch of something. But it's not an exciting car to look at, but it is actually quite pleasant to drive. So the Jetta GLI is basically a 4-door sedan version of the GTI of the Golf GTI. So if you are one of those people that for some reason thinks that having a trunk is better than having a hatchback, I don't know what's wrong with you, but VW's got you covered on both fronts. So you can get the Jetta GLI or the Golf GTI. In the GLI, it's got the 2-liter EA888 4-cylinder turbo engine, which is the same engine that Volkswagen currently uses on almost everything that they sell in North America. So it's 228 horsepower, 258 pounds-feet of torque, which is actually pretty good. It's more than enough for this car. It's also paired. You can get it with a 6-speed manual transmission. Unfortunately, the one I had the 7-speed DSG dual clutch automatic, which actually most of the time is fine. The one, when we had our Jetta TDI wagon, we had a DSG gearbox in there as well, but it was a 6-speed. The 7-speed, doesn't behave significantly differently, but the one thing that you will notice the most is just accelerating off the line. You sometimes get some lag, before the clutches engage and it really kicks in. And so you step on the accelerator, and this is particularly noteworthy when you go to one of these from an EV. And we own an EV. And when you get into an EV and you step on the accelerator, it just goes immediately. There's no waiting around. And with a regular automatic transmission, a torque converter automatic transmission, you get a slight bit of lag, but not much. Modern automatics are pretty good about that. They're pretty responsive. And when you get into a dual clutch gearbox, it's like, okay, you step on it. And
go get some coffee and come back.
Yeah, it's most problematic, when you're, for example, trying to make a left turn out of your neighborhood onto a busy street, and you're trying to time it right because that there's going to be some lag there, and you want to be able to get out there before the cars coming at you from the left are going to get to where you are, and before the cars coming, from the right get to where you are. You want to try and get that gap. That can be a little problematic to time just right. But other than that, the gearbox works fine. It shifts smoothly, it shifts quickly. The engine's nice. It's got plenty of power, plenty of performance. No real complaints with that. The seats are quite comfortable. I've always liked VW seats. They've always been pretty good. This one, has most of the options on it. It still has, some of the touch control stuff that VW put on a lot of their recent vehicles. Like for the temperature controls, you got to drag your finger along the slider on the dashboard, which is a bit annoying. But there is a volume, a rotary volume control, so that's good.
Yeah.
It's got Android Auto and CarPlay support, all the usual stuff. The rear seat is roomy enough as well for adults, so I can easily fit behind myself in the rear seat. It's generally quite a pleasant car to drive. The handling, the ride is good. So the chassis dynamics of both the GLI and the GTI, it's a fun car to drive once you get it off the line, once you get it moving. The one that I had, as I said, was pretty loaded. There was actually no options on this thing. So for the Autobahn edition, that's the top of the line model. The total price on the Monroney, $35,670, which is quite a bit, I think, for a Jetta.
You can get 3 of those for the price of a Durango Hellcat.
That's true. Yeah.
You could. Worth noting.
Everything is relative.
Yeah. You guys want to take a guess at the destination charge on this one?
I'm going to go $1,295.
I'm thinking $1,500.
Nicole, you were off by just $20. It was $1,275.
Wow, that's
nice guess.
Go me.
The GLI with the DSG transmission is rated at 26 city, 35 highway, 29 combined. Wow. I was averaging about 27 with it. Mostly, I think probably because every time I went to accelerate, I probably gave it more gas than it should have gotten, just because I was trying to get it to get up and go. But other than that, it's a very nice car to drive. Like I say, not exciting in the least to look at, but very nice to drive. So, if you want a GTI with a trunk, VW's got you covered.
I actually just pulled it up to see when you were talking about the pictures or what not being very exciting. And it is really just the red stripe. That's the only personality in the whole thing. But on the one that I happened to pull up, it was black with the red stripe. And for all the world, the little red piece on the bottom reminds me of when you see someone driving like a Charger and they still have the little protectors on the...
yeah.
Forgot to take them off.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that doesn't give me the right vibe. That's literally what I thought when I looked at it.
Yeah, and on the Autobahn, you get the black wheels and everything, so it really makes it even more subtle to look at.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of little splashes of red inside the cabin as well. On the steering wheel, there's a little splash of red on the bottom spoke of the steering wheel. There's a little red surround on the shift lever. You get some red contrasting stitching on the seats. So, inside there's a little bit of some interesting stuff, but again, just, not, I think it's good, if what you want is a car that you can drive fairly swiftly, and not get noticed by, say, law enforcement officials, things like that.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah. So that's the Jetta. All right, let's talk about some of the stuff we saw in New York. So let's start with that Hyundai concept. So, ahead of the show, I sent a note to one of the folks at Hyundai, because I was just trying to figure out, where I could write something about this, just to figure out if there was anything green associated with this car. And I said, okay, you sold us, nothing under embargo. Can you at least say if there's any hybrid component or anything to it? Nope. We said we're going totally old school on this, not telling you anything. And so what they showed us was a big 4-wheel drive off-road SUV concept. Roughly, it seems like it's roughly about the size of a Ford Bronco Raptor. Big brawny fenders on it and everything. And a couple of days before the show, they released a teaser image. It was just a big boulder hanging in the air.
I don't even know if that would qualify as a teaser image.
Whatever.
It was so weird. It's just like floating boulder.
It said we're announcing something on Wednesday, and here's a rock to look at. But it teased the name because it's called the Boulder, the Hyundai Boulder.
It did tease the name technically.
Of course, I saw it and I thought it was a rock. So
I know. I thought, I'm like, what is this big rock?
Boulder didn't occur to me till after I saw the Boulder concept.
That is one of those like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think of the Boulder?
I thought it was really great. I thought it looked fantastic. I mean, it's a concept, so at this moment they're not building it. They haven't confirmed they're building it.
They're gonna build it.
I think so too.
But
talking to them, we did an interview with the designer Sang-Yup Lee. I think I'm saying his name.
Sang-Yup Lee, yeah.
Sang-Yup Lee correctly. He was so enthusiastic about it, and he had, he was really positive about it. He said, well, a lot of it's going to depend on what people think about it. And everybody thought it looked pretty cool. I didn't really hear anybody saying they didn't like the look of it. My favorite part of the entire thing was when he got really excited talking about it. Designers get in like, okay, look at this little curve and look at this little line and look at this little flat sheet metal. And he's like, come around here. And we're like at a rear 3/4, which is like on the corner of a car for people who don't know what that means. Like kind of looking at the taillights. He's like, if you come up to the top here, see how it's rounded and it kind of comes down? It's like a 1950s refrigerator. And I was like, huh.
Is that really what you want in a car?
I can see that. But now once he said that, I thought, and the handles are sort of, the dual handles for the tailgate are sort of hidden into it. So again, he's like, it was like that refrigerator. And I thought, okay, I can just see you trying to pitch this. I'm going to make this off-road SUV. It's going to look like a fridge. And everyone going, what?
Well, and it is, all finished,
it's a retro fridge.
In brushed metal.
It's a retro fridge. Yeah.
It's not painted. So it's just brushed metal, so it does kind of have that stainless steel refrigerator feel to it,
right?
And the handles as well. I mean, the side handles, it's like a bar that you grab. Like you could see a big door handle on a fridge, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, now I can't unsee it looking like a fridge.
You're welcome.
But I mean, I think I love the big wheels on it, the short overhangs. It looks like it would be able to go anywhere if it actually
Yeah,
had
it's
an
on
engine and
37-inch wheels and tires.
right.
So
But the very first thing I thought when I saw it though was the original Bronco concept from early 2000s. It's like 2003 or 4.
Mm.
And because that was also silver, almost the same color. And the grills are different but the same basic shape. But it was funny because
similar
when
vibe to
Bronco
it.
it was, and when Ford showed that, it's like, oh, we're going to build the Bronco, and it was how many years later? 20 years,
Yeah.
almost
Yeah,
20 years
it was
later that they
about
actually
almost
built it.
20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully Hyundai won't take 20 years to build a production version of this.
I feel like it's going to be sooner than that.
Well,
Yeah, well
Hyundai did announce that they're going to actually Jose Munoz, the CEO, said by 2030 Hyundai is going to release 36 new or updated vehicles in North America. So I mean, that's a lot more vehicles than they have in the lineup right now. And some of that is going to be variations, like N models and things like that. But we know that they're doing a midsize pickup, which is coming probably around 28, 29. And, which means that, they're tooling up for a body on frame assembly line. And this this is going to be based, I think this is going to be based on the same platform as that pickup. They didn't tell us anything about powertrain or anything. As far as we know, the vehicle we saw does not even have a powertrain. But looking underneath, you could see it had a solid rear axle. It was body on frame. It's some interesting design details to this thing too. Like they mentioned, I forget exactly. I think like softened pixels, and like when you look at the tail lights, like in the Ioniqs and some of the other models, we've seen this pixel lighting theme with these little tiny pixels, these arrays of little pixels making up the lights. On this one, it's kind of like it's kind of like the Duplo of pixels, where you've got big blocky pixels for the tail lights and for the headlights, which I thought was really cool. And then on the tailgate, on both sides of the tailgate, there's theoretically a handle there. I don't know if there actually is on this particular concept. But it says pull.
Like there was a hand actually you could fit, because when I was talking to him, he moved the stanchions and let us actually get up close. And there is a handle, like when you slide your hand back there, it's probably like, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches behind there that your hand goes, that you could pull the handle out. We didn't open it, but yeah, there are little handles that are hidden in there.
But so you've got that on both sides, which means they've got some
really
sort of
cool.
mechanism so it can hinge either to the left or to the right. Presumably depending on where you are. So I guess if you're in a city, parked at the curb, you want to open it up to the left, you can do that, or if you're somewhere else, you want to open it up to the right, you can do that as well. And then you've got the Safari windows above the side doors, kind of like on a older Land Rover Discovery, so that's kind of a neat touch. So a lot of interesting design details on this thing.
I like the tow hooks integrated into the bumper too, both front and back. They almost looks like the bumper was put on and then they strapped it in with those tow hooks.
Yeah,
it just looks solid. If they were to come out with something that looks exactly like that, I don't think it would have any trouble selling it.
Yeah, no. I mean, it looks like it's just carved out of a giant block of aluminum.
It looks really cool, and if the pricing is cheaper than like what you get for comparable other cars, SUVs, that's going to make a huge difference too. Hyundai does a good job with their pricing, and they have a really good warranty, so it could give them some really strong competition to the other guys.
Yeah, I could see them. I wouldn't be surprised if they did this and put an E-Rev drivetrain in it. Had it with a gas powertrain, and then also with an E-Rev as an option. And I think that that would be really interesting because a vehicle like this, no matter what gas powertrain you put in it, not going to get great fuel economy. But if you made it an E-Rev, it could actually be pretty cool.
It is interesting. I just looking at it, there is no fuel filler or port of any kind on either side of the car.
Yeah.
It's a
I just
concept,
noticed.
Perry.
I know, but I just.
The fuel is also a concept at this point.
Well, I thought it was also interesting that they gave it a rear differential, but not a front one. And so, I know it's all fake and, it's just the design study anyway, but it just seemed odd that this design study technically is rear wheel drive.
Well, it's probably front wheel drive, or sorry, I should say 4-wheel drive, but with an independent front suspension. So the rear differential is probably mounted up a little bit higher to give it some more ground clearance.
Okay, I'll give you that.
All right.
Either that or the electric motor is powering the front wheels and the
That's also a
gas engine's driving the rear
possibility.
wheels.
That's a possibility too.
Yeah.
So many options when it's a concept vehicle.
So many possibilities.
Anything is possible. All right. So let's move on. Hyundai's corporate cousins at Kia had a press conference, and they showed 2 new vehicles, both of which have been sort of seen before, but this is the first time they've been seen in North America, and they're both coming to the U.S. market. So first up was the new 2027 Seltos, the second generation Seltos. What did you think of the Seltos?
Like, I didn't realize, I wasn't there when they showed it officially, and I didn't realize it was a Seltos when I walked by it. It looked so different in the front. It's like, what is that? I'm like, that's the Seltos? Like, they made it look so different, it doesn't even remotely resemble what it was before.
It's like a baby Telluride.
It's like a baby Telluride.
Very
That's
much
why I was
so.
confused. I'm like, what is this? This is not a Telluride. This is too small. What am I looking at?
It's kind of the design is kind of a mix of Telluride and EV9. Because when the teaser image that they showed the week before the show was a front view, straight on front view, and it just had the running lamps on it. It's got the 2 vertical running lamps like the Telluride, the new Telluride has. But then when you look at it from the side is much more EV9, some creases in the bodywork and like the same sort of roof line as the EV9, but obviously a lot smaller. And it's slightly larger. It's about 2.5 inches longer than the current generation Seltos. But it's still a fairly compact crossover. And it's gonna have two gas powertrains, the same ones that they have today with the 2-liter naturally aspirated and the 1.6-liter turbo. And then later in the year, they're going to launch a hybrid version as well. So it'll be the first time that there's a hybrid version of the Seltos.
Which is cool. I mean, I think, and that will be all-wheel drive. They said it's the first electric all-wheel drive system they've ever offered.
With the hybrid. First one with a rear e-axle.
Right.
So they've had hybrids, but with a mechanical drive shaft driving the rear wheel.
Right. So this will be just the drive motor, just the motors driving the rear wheels, I guess.
Yeah.
But front wheels. Rear wheels.
Same way Toyota does it on the RAV4.
Right. But I thought it was interesting that the tail lights almost look a little K4. That vertical, it's almost like at night I could see them being almost the same.
Yeah, there's elements of a bunch of different current Kia models in there.
But I thought the most interesting thing was the headlights are completely integrated into the grille. In fact, I tried to get them turn them on just so I could even see where they come through. But if you get close, it's like the grille looks like it goes all the way to the edges, except that the headlights are built into it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of a cool feature. And then interior, it's like the rest of the newer models, like the Telluride, where it gets rid of the dual purpose display, which has always driven me crazy, where you have to toggle between vent and audio, and I hate that. So that's gone. That's gone. In fact, the Kia folks, I think, weren't big fans of it either, at least the US folks. And so yeah, I think that it's going to be it's really has a nice interior. I think it's going to do well.
Yeah, there's again, a lot of elements that you find in other current generation Kias. So you get the same basic display setup, you get in the EV9 and in the Telluride, and I think the K4 as well, where
K4
you've
has
got
it, yeah.
a single sheet of
Mhm.
glass. There's two 12.3-inch displays, and then you got that little 5-inch display in between for some of the climate control stuff that is completely hidden behind the steering wheel.
Yes, that does bug me. I mean, granted, it's not something you have to access or do anything with much, but it still bugs me that you can't see it.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
anyway,
yeah, but then you do at least get physical controls for temperature and fan speed, and then some other stuff, and the little volume roller in the middle of the dash there, and of course manual vents, always a good thing.
Yay.
I sat in the back seat. I sat the driver's seat for my position, and then I got in the back seat, and I had plenty of room back there. I had several inches of knee room, had enough headroom in the back. There's plenty of cargo space in the back. It looks like, so I think this could be a very practical vehicle. Starting price will probably be similar to where the current Seltos is around. I think the current Seltos starts just under 25 grand. So it'll probably be around 25, 26 grand to start. The hybrid will probably run, I'm guessing, low 30s.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
It'll be a good price. People
Yeah.
will be happy about it. They finally are
Yep.
paying attention to it. They're not. It's not the stepchild no one's looking at.
Yeah, and it's a
Exactly.
sharp looking little crossover.
And it fits nicely with the lineup, just with the styling and everything. So,
And then next to that was the EV3, which I think we saw did they have the EV3 at the show last year? I know they talked
I
about
thought
it.
I
I think
didn't.
I thought it was an EV4 last year that they
well, they had an
but
EV4, but I think they also had an EV3 there.
Oh,
Or
I
maybe
don't remember that from last year,
I
but
can't
I don't
remember.
think
that's
I'd seen it
possible.
before. But
I know they talked last year they talked about the plan was to launch the EV4. It was supposed to launch in the fall of 2025, and then the EV3 was supposed to come out in the first half of 2026. Well, the EV4 has been canceled for the North American or for the U.S. market. You can actually buy the EV4 in Canada and in Mexico, but you can't get it in the U.S. because we can't have nice things. But the EV3, they kept the EV3 because it's more crossover type body, but it's looking at the dimensions of it, it's slightly smaller than the Seltos. It's about 2.5 inches shorter than the Seltos, and it sits a little bit lower, but it's got that kind of crossover-ish shape to it. And it's built on a 400 volt version of the eGMP architecture, so it doesn't charge quite as fast as like an EV6 or EV9, but still, it'll do 10 to 80% in about 25 to 30 minutes,
so still
which is
reasonably quick.
yeah.
Mhm.
And this one is coming out later this year. They're not talking pricing yet, but when I talked to a couple of people from Kia, about what their targets are, what are they benchmarking for this thing? They specifically talked about Bolt and Leaf, which both start at $30,000.
That makes sense.
And the EV3 is going to be available with two battery sizes. There's a 54 kilowatt hour battery and a 74 or 75 kilowatt hour battery. The smaller battery is supposed to give about 220 miles of range, and the larger battery will give up to 320 miles of range. And front wheel drive or all wheel drive, I think it's about 288-ish horsepower with all wheel drive, about 200 horsepower with front drive. I like the look of this thing. I think it's pretty cool.
It's a
I
nice
think-
size.
Yeah.
And with I guess it's the GT that gets 288 horsepower with the sport tune suspension and
Yeah.
it could be a pretty entertaining little vehicle to drive.
Yeah. And I think I believe that this is going to replace the Nero in the lineup. I think the Nero is going to go away because it's not a huge seller, and I think this is going to replace that.
And that makes sense because I think otherwise they would be competing against each other anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they're too close together.
All right. Another all-new vehicle that debuted at the auto show last week was the 2027 Volkswagen Atlas. It's the second generation of the Atlas. And what do you think about this one?
It's more exciting than the Jetta?
There's a rousing endorsement.
I mean, they
think... Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, they made it a little more modern looking, but it still looks like an Atlas. It's never been super exciting. But I don't know that was their goal.
No. I mean, they added some neat stuff. I mean, it definitely looks, like you said, the style update is cool. It looks better than it did. It has nice, like the lighting is fabulous inside and out. I really like how they did that. It's got some neat like stuff along the along the doors, like the way they've done the lights. They've gotten really into the lighting, but they added some more features to it compared to what they had before. They added the infotainment is upgraded. There's Napa leather. There's seats. Like they've added all the bells and whistles to make it better and to make it more appealing. It's still not like this super compelling vehicle to me though, but it never really has been. I think it's nice steps forward, but I don't like. I'm like, wow. Like I don't know. What
And
about
that
you,
was kind of
Sam? Or Perry?
I
Either
was
one
just
of
gonna
you.
say, I mean, that's kind of how it was. I remember when the first Atlas came out. It was fine. It's bigger than some of the other models in that class. So a little bit more seat room, but it's just I wouldn't say boring. It's just doesn't stand out ahead of, there's nothing I can think of that the Atlas is the one for that, that it's not the sporty one. It's not I don't know.
There's just so many. There's such competition in this segment. Like there's so many. And I guess putting the Atlas in there, gives them that vehicle so that they fill that niche for people who are Volkswagen loyalists. But I don't know that it would, I don't know, would this draw me in if I wasn't just already a hardcore Volkswagen fan or just wanted to move up from my boring Jetta to something else or my tiny little, tiny little car to something bigger and family friendly? I don't know that it would. Do you think, who do you think the person is that's going to get this?
Probably the same people who buy the current Atlas. People who like VWs but want, something bigger. I think the front end is definitely more interesting looking than before.
Yeah.
Especially those headlights.
Yeah.
Those headlights
the lights
cool.
are fabulous.
The headlights
really
and kind of the split
good.
grill. You got a couple of different sections of body color, separated by grill around it. And the interior, looking at the interior, it does still have the same infotainment setup that you find on like the ID4 and the ID Buzz, where it's got the touch sliders across the bottom of the screen, which for temperature and volume, which is not great. Obviously, this one was too far along before Thomas Schaefer, the CEO of Volkswagen, decided no, we got to have buttons and switches from now on. One interesting detail I didn't notice from looking at the photo of the interior that I hadn't noticed before, there's two circular pads on the center console there, in the bin there. It's got two wireless, magnetic wireless charging pads. They're Qi 2 charging pads for your phone. So
nice.
if you have an iPhone or if you've got any other phone that's got either built-in magnets like the current Google Pixel or you've got a magnetic case, you can just pop it on there and it'll charge and it's not going to fall off for you. So that's nice. So far Nissan is the first one that's introduced those in cars, on the Murano and I think on the Rogue. They've got those, and on the Pathfinder refresh.
Yeah.
But now VW's got them on this new Atlas as well. So hopefully we'll start seeing those on other new vehicles as they start coming to market in the next year or so. Powertrain wise, they only they're launching with just another variant of the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. This one producing 282 horsepower, 258 pounds-feet of torque. So it's 13 more horsepower than the old Atlas. And, I actually like driving the Atlas. Again, like you said, it was not real exciting to look at, but it was really nice to drive. We had one for Operation Frodo in December, and I spent a day driving it with some rescue dogs, and it was actually one of the best cars we had for that trip in terms of driving. Driving long distances on the highway, very comfortable, very smooth. Good had good wind resistance. We had crosswinds, so it was nice to drive. And let's see what else. They have a 1-year. It comes with a 1-year trial subscription to premium speech. Volkswagen's generative AI-enabled voice assistant helps with natural language tasks. Oh boy, will that be fun!
Yeah, I'm already thinking of trying to find the off switch.
They have promised that they're going to add a hybrid as a mid-cycle refresh for this Atlas. So that's probably 2-3 years away. Unfortunately, it'd be nice to have one at launch, but better late than never, I guess.
True.
All right, and then there was another brand new 3-row SUV that was launched, and that was the Subaru Getaway. Perry, I think you've probably seen more of this thing than either of us have.
Yeah, I went and spent a day crawling through it and taking pictures of it, and it's interesting because this is it's on the same platform as the Toyota Highlander that just recently was introduced, which is also all electric. In fact, pretty much every Subaru electric has a Toyota twin. Uh, but interestingly, this one has more power than its Toyota partner. So I think the Toyota is what, 370? No,
No,
340.
338 for the all-wheel drive and 221 for the front-wheel drive.
Where the Subaru is going to come standard with a dual motor 420 horsepower system. So they're saying, 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, which, for a 3-row SUV, electric or not, is still not bad. But I like the style of it. I think it doesn't have all the cladding of all of their other cars, which gives it a bit of a cleaner look. It still has the whole Toyota system inside, but it's instead of the same dashboard that's in the Trail Seeker, in the Uncharted, and in Solterra, where you have to look above the steering wheel to see the gauges. This one is a more normal setup. So it has the newer system where it's got a digital display, but it's you look at it through the steering wheel like a normal car. And it has the big touchscreen display, which is a nice improvement over the previous one as well, which is introduced. It's a Toyota system, but it's on the new Toyota Highlander as well. Does get the dual phone chargers. It's got, I think, comes standard with 6-passenger, but you have optional 7-passenger seating. I got in the third row, and it's a little short on legroom, but width-wise, it actually is pretty comfortable. And so if you can convince the people sitting in front of you to slide their seats forward, you actually have a decent amount of space back there. So I think it's a little bit bigger than the Ascent, interior and exterior. It doesn't sound like the Ascent is going anywhere, at least in the near future. It's still, but who knows? I was concerned that they were going to come out with this, call it the Ascent, and say goodbye to the Ascent, which that apparently is not going to be not going to be the case. Um, so so yeah, it's supposed to be in showrooms later this year, and later on they will have a more standard battery, which will be obviously less expensive with a lower range. I think they're saying for this one, um, the range they're expecting they're just saying more than 300 miles. And charging, it's still max of 150 kilowatts, so 10 to 80% in about a half hour.
I had a chance to look at this one too. I went to the preview out in California. I got to see it. Had a chance to sort of check it out, crawl all over it, and I agree with you, Perry, about space and stuff. I think it's a good vehicle. I wonder how well an EV is gonna I just don't know. You just don't know with EVs right now. There's such a giant question mark in terms of the reception, regardless of how good they are. How good or bad, the range, the price, whatever. People are so skittish about EVs these days.
It's also interesting that Subaru is, I wouldn't say flooding the market, but in the last 12 months, this is the third new EV that they're going to come out with,
right?
Which is really interesting as every other manufacturer, most other manufacturers seem to be pulling back from EVs altogether. And so it will be interesting to see. I mean, and granted, they don't compete against each other. They do compete against Toyota.
Right.
And Toyota is always going to win that battle because Toyota's going to sell more of everything.
Yeah.
They have more showrooms, and it's just the way it is. But and this one will be built in Kentucky, I believe.
Yeah, it's going to be built in Georgetown, Kentucky, alongside the Toyota Highlander,
the Highlander.
And whatever they call the Lexus version of this.
Ah, right. Still to come, I guess.
Still to come. Wait and see.
Yeah, I'm guessing we'll probably see that in May when they do the drive for the ES. But
right.
yeah, but it's interesting, for a company like Toyota that was so kind of anti-EV, by the end of this year, they will have 7 EVs in their lineup.
Wow.
And
Subaru
will have 4
really quickly.
Yeah.
Like boom, yeah, one right after the other. It's like yeah. It feels like they should have done this a little sooner or not done it.
Well, I
know.
think it's probably given what they had to start with, it's probably better that they didn't do it sooner. I mean, they launched the BZ4X and the Solterra. They were very underwhelming. They had terrible charging, mediocre range. They were kind of pricey. And they listened to the complaints. They went back and completely re-engineered everything, all the important stuff anyway, and made them a lot more efficient, a lot faster charging. They lowered the prices, and they're using that hardware set to build all these other vehicles. So you've got basically 2 different motors, a couple of different batteries that they're putting into everything from the BZ and Solterra to the Uncharted and CHR, the BZ Woodland and Trailseeker, now the Highlander and the Getaway, and then the Lexus ES is going to have the same kind of components in there, and the Lexus 3-row is going to have those components in there. So they're leveraging a lot of component sharing to keep their costs down, and I think that's a good thing. They rather than rush them out when they had something that wasn't great to begin with, they waited, got it right first, and then rolled out all these other variations. And if you look at the sales numbers, like especially the Q1 sales numbers, the sales for the BZ and the Solterra in the first quarter were up significantly over the first quarter of 2025.
Interesting.
And particularly in March, the March sales numbers were way up. Gee, I wonder what happened in March that could have caused EV sales to go up.
Curious.
Yeah.
Funny, I think the most interesting thing, though,
right when gas prices went up, those EV sales started climbing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most interesting thing is, though, that this all started 3 years ago. I mean, the first Solterra was a 23. This is only 26. I mean, this is a lot of advancement in a very short time, which is unusual in this industry.
Yeah.
That I mean, Subaru has completely changed their outlook. Ooh, I wonder if that sounds like a good name for a Subaru.
Well, they got Outback.
Subaru Outlook.
They got Outback. My daughter always wanted to know why that wasn't called the Out Front.
Valid complaint.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I've seen 2 Outbacks in my neighborhood in the past week. The new ones.
The new one.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see them around. Yeah, they're out there.
Yeah.
It is funny to look at the old one, and the old one looks really old now compared to the new one, and it's not been gone that long.
Not really that old. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you like the look of the old one, you might want to check out the Trailseeker rather than the Outback.
Exactly. Yeah. Or
It's
you might
really
check
much
out the
more
Trailseeker anyway. I really like that one. I
Yeah.
think of all of Subaru's EVs that I've driven so far, that's my favorite, but that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah. All right. There's also one other Kia vehicle from the auto show that we neglected to talk about, which is the PV5, which they showed as a taxi in partnership with Bronability. So Kia first showed the PV5 and a bunch of other variants of it at CES in 2024. Yeah, 2024. They showed them, and those so this is sort of a mid-size van that they had on display there, the PV5, and so smaller than something like a Transit, bigger than like the old Transit Connect or the old ProMaster City, relatively tall, and they partnered with Bronability. Bronability is one of the biggest providers of wheelchair accessible vehicles in the U.S. And so they do modifications on a wide range of different vehicles. So you can buy Chrysler Pacificas, Toyota Siennas. There's a bunch of different SUVs that they do. I can't remember if they do the Odyssey or not, but there's a bunch of different vehicles that they sell with wheelchair accessibility kits. And one of the things you'll notice whenever whether it's Bronability or one of the competitors, typically whenever you see a van that's got a wheelchair kit on there, it's usually been jacked up. So suspension's been lifted up so that they can get the access in there for the wheelchairs, with a reasonable ramp height and other things. But they worked very closely with Kia on integrating into the PV5. And I talked with somebody from Bronability about what they did with this thing. And because the PV5 is a skateboard chassis with, the battery comes up to the rear axle, and then there's independent rear suspension. There's nothing really between the rear wheels. They were able to basically cut down the floor in between the rear suspension on either side. And they didn't have to really do anything to the suspension at all. So from the outside, it looks like a perfectly standard PV5, but it's got a nice, reasonable ramp angle for the wheelchairs. And one of the things he was explaining about a lot of these wheelchair conversions is the anchor kits for the chair. It's usually separate cables that, a lot of times they'll get lost or misplaced. And, then, when a driver is going to pick up somebody in a wheelchair, they don't always have all the cables. So they can't strap the chair down. So then they got to call another car. This one, they've designed the system with integrated cables or integrated anchors in there for the chair, so that they're always there. They're not rattling around. And it's a lot easier to use, a lot easier for the driver to get the chair hooked in there. So you roll the chair up into the back, hook it down so it doesn't move around, and then the ramp folds up in the back. When there's a chair in there, the ramp folds up in the back. When there's no chair in there, the ramp can actually just slide right up on top of the part of the ramp that extends out, just slides up on top of the floor. And so you still have a flat floor. So if the car is picking up somebody else who's not in a wheelchair, you still have all that cargo area back there. And they've got this one wrapped like a New York City taxi. They're talking to the Taxi and Limousine Commission about getting these things approved for use as taxis. They haven't got that yet, but I think this would be a good addition to the fleet in New York and other cities, where you need wheelchair accessible vehicles.
Yeah,
It's a cool setup. Yeah.
It's neat, and to make it a little bit more easily accessible for people in wheelchairs too, like you said, not having to do any kind of upfitting to make it work. It looked really neat. I think it's a great idea. We'll see. They seem very positive about getting it approved, so I think it really is hopefully just a matter of time.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Stellantis. They have a plant in Brampton, Ontario, which is just west of Toronto, which is where they used to build the Charger and Challenger and Chrysler 300. And then before that, they actually built Jeeps there for a long time. And the plant was originally slated to produce the next generation Jeep Compass. Well, last spring, after somebody imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico, Stellantis paused their retooling efforts at the factory and decided not to build the Compass there. They later on changed their plans and decided to build the Compass in Illinois instead. But they've got this empty plant, and they've been trying to figure out what to do with it. Well, now that Canada has a trade deal with China that's going to allow Chinese vehicles to come into the Canadian market, Chinese EVs to come into the Canadian market, and they're also encouraging Chinese vehicles to be built in Canada. Stellantis is now in talks to convert that assembly plant over to building vehicles from Leap Motor, which is a partner that they own an equity stake in Leap Motor, and they're talking to the Canadian and Ontario governments about building Leap Motor EVs in that plant, which could be interesting. I think I have a feeling that when these Chinese EVs come into the Canadian market this year, they're probably going to sell pretty well. But now we're starting to get a lot of noise from Washington. The Canadian ambassador or the U.S. ambassador to Canada already declared last week that Chinese vehicles are not going to be allowed to cross the border from Canada. So, Canadians who buy a Chinese vehicle, if they want to visit the U.S., they are not going to be allowed to drive those vehicles across the border. Senator Bernie Moreno has introduced a bill to ban any Chinese vehicle, both to ban vehicles from being driven in, from being imported, or even from being built in the U.S., which is kind of nuts. And a big part of one of the reasons they keep giving for trying to ban Chinese vehicles is, this nonsense security reason. They're saying, if we get these Chinese vehicles in the U.S., they've all got these cameras on them. You know what else has cameras on them? Every other vehicle that you can buy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention your phone and everything else that you carry around.
and they're going to be sending all this data, doing all this spying and sending data back to China. It's like they don't need to import vehicles or build them here or anything else to do that. They could just go out and buy, any vehicle that's already on sale here and slap some cameras in it. And if they want to spy, they can just drive around and capture whatever they want. Yeah, it's a ridiculous argument. But what do you think about the idea of Stellantis building Leap Motor EVs in Canada?
I think it's a good move for them. I mean, if they have a way to use a factory that's being unused and to help their struggling bottom line,
yeah,
I think they should do that.
No, I think it does make sense. I mean, why waste the space? And if there's going to be demand for them, I have no idea pricing wise, but it would seem that they would be a less expensive way of getting into an EV. A
couple of years ago when Stellantis had their last investor day here, Carlos Tavares, the then CEO, talked a lot about Leap Motor and said, this was a pathway for them to get much more affordable EVs into the market, not just here, but in Europe as well. I would guess that these are going to be fairly inexpensive vehicles. Not as cheap as they are in China, obviously, but apparently fairly inexpensive. Although according to the story from Electrek, the proposal from Stellantis has already drawn fierce opposition from Ontario Premier Doug Ford and the Unifor Union, which represents about 3,000 laid-off workers at the plant. I can't understand why they would be so upset about it. If Stellantis wants to build something there, they're
right. Why would
they're
they
going to
care
be
what
recalling
it is?
workers.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to protest it. But
yeah.
there must be something else there as well.
Yeah. but that could be
Hmm.
interesting.
Could be good.
All right, the
Yeah.
last story I want to touch on for today is one that actually just popped up in the New York Times today. It's about how a family of 3 lives on $25,000 a year in Corona in Queens. So this is in New York City, and this is an immigrant family, and the husband he's driving for Uber and Lyft, and he is he's clearing about $25,000 a year after expenses, which to live in New York, or even in Queens,
To live anywhere.
seems
Seriously.
is insane. But reading through the story, the thing that really jumped out at me is that he's renting a Toyota RAV4 hybrid to use to drive. And I know, Uber and Lyft and some other companies do these rentals of relatively newer vehicles to drivers that want to use them for rideshare, or, for deliveries or whatever else. They can use them for DoorDash or things like that. And this guy is paying $2,400 a month to rent a RAV4.
And he has another $450 in car insurance on there.
Yeah.
So that's
almost
$2,850 that he's spending
almost $3,000 a month just for the
Which is
car.
almost more than he's spending to live.
Right?
Well, actually, it is more than he's spending.
It is, because they says they split split the rent with somebody. So that is more. That, I feel like there should be a better way to do that than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like he's getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's like one of these rent to own deals, except that he's never actually going to own this vehicle.
No.
Yeah. There needs to be, some sort of pathway for for people to, if they want to do this work, and reading the article, explains, why he's doing this, instead of some other job, because he's got a 7-month-old child. His wife just had a baby last year, and he likes having the flexibility, so he can go with them to doctor's appointments and things like that. And so that's fair, but if you're gonna do this kind of work, there needs to be some other pathway to getting a reasonable vehicle, a reasonably priced vehicle to use, because $2,400 a month to rent a RAV4.
I mean,
even if you took an insanely long loan, you wouldn't be paying anywhere near that much to buy one.
I was going to say, if he doesn't rent it for 4 months, 3 months, he could buy a reasonable used car.
Seriously.
I mean,
Yeah.
for 7,500 to 10 grand. I mean, no, it's not going to be anything great, but you can, there's got to be something that is still drivable, still usable, that he could use for. I mean, I don't know what their qualifications are, but yeah, it would seem that that's there's no way you can win.
No,
you're never going to get yourself out of that.
No, that's amazing to me. Wow.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
It is really unfortunate, and that's something we should maybe take a look at, is how can we provide people that are working in the gig economy as drivers, a way to make a reasonable living doing this stuff. And this certainly isn't it.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, it is hard to make a living driving a car if you don't have one.
That's true.
I mean, that's I'm not saying that what they're doing is right, but he's chosen a profession that requires a car.
Yeah.
Or chosen to, I mean, I don't know what other possibilities there are, and granted, there's certain benefits to having the flexibility of an Uber driver, but that's kind of that's why it works for so many people, is they use what they already have, and then it's just money on top.
Right.
Where he's taken pretty much all the money he's making and just putting it back in the car, which just doesn't make any sense.
It says he clears $25,000 a year, and he's spending like 30 on the car. So he's spending a lot on that car.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I'm
So I mean,
confused by that.
he's technically earning about 55,000 a year, but 30,000 of that is just going into that vehicle. And I know that if you don't have credit, and you can't get a loan, or you can't get a reasonable loan, buying a used car, you could end up, you end up paying insanely high interest rates, on a used car loan. But even at that, you should be able to get something like, a not too old RAV4 or CRV or something, certainly for a lot less than $2,400 a month. Maybe $1,000 a month. And if you did $1,000 a month, on a, say you could find a used RAV4 for 25 grand, and you could, buy that for, even $1,000 a month loan, even if you had like a 20% interest rate, that,
you're still better off.
You're still far better off.
Yeah.
There's at least a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel on that, where this one,
at least at some point you're actually going to own it.
You're going to own it. It's going to be yours.
Exactly.
You're not just renting it.
Right. It's an investment as opposed to what this is, which is throwing away money, unfortunately.
It is.
Yeah. All right. There's a couple other stories I've got on here, but I'm going to save those for next week because there's some stuff with Mercedes-Benz. I know Robbie went to visit Mercedes last week.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna save those for next week when he's back, hopefully.
Sounds good.
We do have 2 interviews that we recorded, and we've got more, but I will save a couple for next week as well. Nicole did several interviews last week in New York, and we did one together. We actually did a couple interviews last week together. The first one is with Craig Piersma. Craig is the vice president of marketing and communications for a company called Gentex, and we've talked recently about the camera mirror systems, like when we talked about the Polestar 4. We speculated about, what could be done to make those more usable for drivers, especially, if you have difficulty refocusing, going from the mirror to the, focusing on the outside world. And so Craig had some very interesting information to share with us on that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run that here, and then we'll be right back after that, and we'll introduce the next interview. Hello, and this is Sam, and I'm here with Nicole, and we're joined today by Craig Piersma, who is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Gentex, which is a company you more likely than not have never heard of, but you also very likely have some of their products in your car if it's been built any time in recent decades. So, Craig, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So let's start off with a little bit of background on Gentex and what you guys do.
Yep. Well, today we think of ourselves as a technology company. We're in automotive, aerospace, fire protection, premium audio, biometrics, but our claim to fame is automotive. That's where most of our revenue is. We were put on the map probably close to 40 years ago when we invented the automatic dimming rear view mirror. So almost everybody has driven with that. Uses 2 cameras, one looking forward of the vehicle, one rearward. They talk together and then darken that mirror to the precise level necessary to eliminate glare. But that mirror, that location on the windscreen is where we play. We've integrated hundreds of features into the mirror. And the topic we're talking about today is we've actually taken and turned it into a digital mirror. So using a camera to see what's behind you with a mirror integrated display. So anything related to that side of the mirror and seeing what's behind you in vision, that's where we play.
So, where did the idea for, what, as Gentex brands it, the full display mirror, or the digital camera mirror, where did that originate from?
Sure. It was back in the early 2000s. Most likely we were You look at car design and how it's evolved over the last couple of decades. You have the belt line of the car sweeping upwards. You had the roof line sweeping downward, resulting in a smaller and smaller rear opening. And so we were doing studies that showed that on average, 30% of a mirror's view is blocked when it's looking out the rear of the car. And that includes things like headrests, but predominantly the C and D pillars in that vehicle. And so we were looking and thinking, well, there's got to be a better way to do this. Around the same time, we were producing a product called rear camera display, where you put the vehicle in reverse and a little inset image would appear in the mirror. And so we knew that, hey, this is what's coming. This is kind of where car design is leading. Here's where technology is leading. We can digitize this and actually see better behind the vehicle if we use a camera. So that camera reveals a bright, panoramic, wide view, unobstructed of what's behind you. And that's just where we are with car design. It was just one of those things we felt was necessary to take that step.
Nicole?
Yeah, so I think the cameras are great, but there are some challenges to having them.
Yeah.
Like I noticed that the very first time I ever used one, there happened to be construction on either side and it had the orange barrels on either side of the road. And it was almost distracting because I saw so much. Like
Yes.
you just saw all these orange barrels floating by in the background. So I know and it was early on, so they weren't, I don't think the clarity of the resolution was as good. So it was a little hard
Sure.
to watch. But with the rear view cameras, one of the things I have a question about is like, especially at nighttime, when you have those at night, it becomes like they don't work. Like the glare is really hard. How do you, like, then you still have to do the old, flip the camera flip the little button thing to make it work.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of advances when we look at handling nighttime performance. Usually it's the other way around. People are saying that the human eye can see into the darkness better than the camera could. And we should point out, to your point, even every one of our full display mirrors is bimodal. So you can switch back and forth. And most customers, when we've studied them, they do it. About 60% of drivers will say that they switch regularly. So if there's a part of the driving task where the camera is not optimal, you can switch it to a standard mirror. When you're trying to monitor multiple lanes of traffic, you want that wider, unobstructed field of view. You've got passengers, a drop-down entertainment center, luggage. You're switching it to that display mode. So, but yeah, we did a lot in terms of flicker mitigation as well. I don't know if you ever noticed that.
I have seen that on occasion. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, those LEDs would flicker at the same frame rate as the camera.
Yes.
And so we've done some tricks to minimize that, basically cut that phenomena in half. But yeah, you do, glare, which is another topic I'm often talking about, is just one of those instances that's reality today. And you're going to get a little camera flare when there is a bright LED headlight behind you. We do have some software that helps take care of that. But again, glare is just something that we live with today.
Yeah, one of the things that I do appreciate about many of these systems is typically when the vehicle has one, there's also a washer on that rear-mounted camera. And so,
Yep.
Living here in Michigan, where we get winter weather, your rear window gets covered with snow or salt or whatever it might be. Even with the defogger on, you don't always get a clear view through that rear window.
Yep.
Or on many newer vehicles, they don't even have a rear window wiper, which is
Right.
even more problematic. And most if not all the cars I've seen with the full display mirror have a washer on there. So when you flick the washer, it actually washes that camera. So even if it has gotten obstructed, all of a sudden you got a nice clear view again.
Yeah. Well, the other benefit about that, especially, they really do work well in all weather conditions. So if it's pouring rain, like you said, if you don't have a rear wiper, that rain is just falling down that rear window. When you're driving down the road at speed, usually that camera's in a location where the water is just whipping away. And it's almost like you're not driving in the rain. That rear view is pretty darn clear because the wind is whipping the rain and the snow away from the camera as you're moving, and you have a nice clear view in that display.
So, Nicole, I think I tend to be more enthusiastic about these things than you, and Robbie too, to some degree.
I I like the cameras, and I think they're. Here's the thing that throws me. It's one of those things that when they work and they do, like when they work, I don't mean that the technology breaks, but when they're working the way they're supposed to, and you're using them the way they're supposed to, and all the conditions are right, they're brilliant. I love it. It's the best thing ever. But the minute the conditions aren't right, it feels like they have a very narrow, perfect operating window. How's that to phrase it?
Yeah.
Where, if it's rainy or if it's, there's snow or ice or stuff blown around or it's nighttime and you got the glare. Sometimes they're like, I think just the old school mirror might be better. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Craig.
Well, like I said, that's why I always remind people that is bimodal. There are going to be times where the mirror mode you might prefer versus the display mode. I hate to talk about other drawbacks of the product, but most of the time when people say they have an issue, it's this need to judge depth of field. That admittedly is more difficult when you're looking at a 2D image, a display. And the other is when you're having to refocus your eyes. So I know that I'm older. I have reached that point where I have what I think it's called presbyopia, which is basically my eye, the older eye, usually it's after the age of 40, cannot focus on a nearby object as well. And so when we're in our car, we're looking down the road, our eyes are focused far down the road, tens of feet to hundreds of yards down the road. The moment we look at any display or anything interior of that vehicle, whether it be my instrument cluster, whether it be the center console or a full display mirror, our eye has to refocus. And that does take some energy. And as we get older, that refocusing isn't as easy to do. And that's where when we'll get into it in a bit, I'm sure, but some of the advances that we're working on are helping to alleviate some of those problems, both the depth of field issue, as well as those that we're dealing with presbyopia or can't refocus as quickly as they'd like.
So I do sometimes have the depth of field issue, which, honestly, you get your side view mirrors that are real mirrors. You have to get the same thing. Like you have to over time get used to the fact closer than appears, the Jurassic Park moment, that thing is right there,
Right.
So I wonder how much of it is just if you had one of these, if you had a camera all the time for your rearview mirror, do you just eventually figure out how close things really are? But I'd love to hear more about how you're countering that. What about the person who's really struggling with that and has that dual mode, they're constantly just putting in old school mode instead of using the camera?
Yeah, so we can jump to that. So this was exciting because I actually started talking to our product guys and some of our engineers just to kind of catch up as I was preparing for this. And there's some pretty cool things we're working on. So we are launching right now. Matter of fact, at the Consumer Electronics Show was the first time we showed what we're calling the next generation full display mirror. It's usually it's the fourth generation, as we call it internally. But and we're doing some interesting things. Number one, it's a different camera. So today, the camera that's being used, most of the FDMs that are in the field, is accompanied by a 2.5 megapixel camera. We're jumping to an 8 megapixel camera. So right there, you're going to get a much sharper, crisper, brighter view. The other thing we're doing is we're switching that display a bit. So the current display, it's about 171 pixels per square inch. We're jumping to 205, so 205 pixels per square inch. What that does is, as I just mentioned, it's a brighter, sharper, more contrast, better color saturated image. Now, if you think about it this way, if our eyes were perfect, if I'm in my 20s and I can refocus no problem, if I'm looking at a blurry image to begin with, your eyes can't bring that into focus, right? So the sharper and crisper that starting image is, the easier on the eyes and the easier it is to focus on it. And so this kind of was something that we came across somewhat anecdotally. There are certainly customers like you that have said, hey, this is an issue. We believe this is an issue, especially for older drivers. What are you doing? And we came up with this next generation FDM. We had some of our customers driving it, and they're like, "Oh, the accessibility or that image is much better. That accessibility for our customers, we think is going to be great." And we're like, "Wait a minute, we didn't even think about it." But that makes sense purely because that starting image is brighter. So we're taking it even a step further. The latest versions you're going to be able to go into, and there's usually a menu for adjusting contrast and brightness and other things.
And
we're going to add a menu item that is an accessibility. So some secret sauce ISP, some image signal processing that even jacks that crispness, the brightness, the color saturation up higher for those that might have this presbyopia. And what we're finding, and we've even done internal studies with our design studio, is that those that deal with presbyopia find this accessibility mode better, almost eliminating that problem for them. So very, very exciting for what's coming down the road with this product.
So how close to coming down the road? Like, you're working on it, but then you have to work on it, and you have to get it tested, and you have to get it ready, and then you have to get it into a vehicle. Like, how long before we actually see that?
Yeah, so we are selling it to automakers today, but like you said, they have current versions. So we just started showing it. Some of them are saying, yes, we're going to adopt that. So you'll see it probably within the next year to two. You'll start to see that being on the roads today. Or in
so
the
not
road
that
next
far.
year. Yep.
So just to step back to, exactly how this is working, by simply increasing the resolution and contrast and color saturation and everything, it sounded like what you said was, if the image is slightly blurry to begin with, then people are going to have especially as you get older and the lenses of your eyes, get stiffer. They don't focus as well. It becomes harder to refocus. So by just making that image quality better, your eyes don't have to work as hard to refocus. Am I understanding that right?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's also worth mentioning, and this is what we find when people are using this in real use to make driving task decisions. The average glance to the mirror, whether it's a full display mirror, standard mirror, is milliseconds. It's somewhere around like 150 to 300 milliseconds. That is you're really not focusing at that much. I always make the joke, I need to know that there is a car behind me, not what kind of car is behind me. So when I'm making those split-second decisions, it's a quick millisecond glance. You can imagine if you're merging and all of the time you're checking your mirror, you're looking how quick, is there a big enough opening? How quickly is that car coming up beside me? It's millisecond glances. And so that's why even when we're using the full display mirror, we find that most people get accustomed to it pretty darn quickly because it's that millisecond glance. It doesn't really need to be in perfect focus. Now, certainly there are times where we're glancing up there and we want to see something clear and sharp. And that's where when people see this will make a real difference for them because they'll be able to focus on that much easier.
So, you mentioned going to an 8-megapixel camera. Are you also working on things like the dynamic resolution, improving the dynamic resolution? So, especially at nighttime, you can see more stuff pops out of that image.
Its nighttime performance is greatly enhanced. Matter of fact, that's kind of we've been showing that at CES for a couple of years, but the nighttime performance is greater. You can turn up that camera to see better at night, but then of course it starts to look black and white. You start to lose any kind of color. It starts to get grainy. And this new camera combined with our image signal processing makes nighttime performance much, much better.
Okay. So. As more and more manufacturers are moving to software-defined vehicles and getting new electronic architectures that centralize the compute, for something like this, I think up till now you're probably doing the processing of that image probably right in the mirror module.
Yes.
Are you going to be? Is that going to be moving into these central compute modules that we're starting to see on cars now?
Yeah. It all depends. So certainly some automakers, if they want to do that off the mirror, that's fine. Most of the time we're finding that there are benefits to just having that compute power right on the mirror itself. The mirror's already got a microprocessor for other things. And what we're also finding is that, typically that mirror it's on the vehicle bus, so it's getting other bits and pieces of information. This next generation of full display mirror is actually going to do some cool things. It's going to adjust, we're calling it dynamic view assist. And this is really why we're getting to this, the better screen and the better camera, because it will adjust according to the driving task. So for instance, when you put the vehicle in reverse, we're actually going to tilt the view digitally downward a little bit to make it seem more natural. So if you imagine the full display mirror, the camera is capturing a wide rectangle. We're only showing that small rectangle view in the mirror, but we can digitally move, tilt, pan, and zoom around in that image that we're actually capturing. So that would means if we put the vehicle in reverse, we can tilt that downward a little bit to make reversing seem more natural, and you'll see that car bumper behind you. At high speeds, Nicole, this is what you're alluding to before. If you're
Yeah.
driving down, you're seeing all the orange cones that are flying past you.
Right.
At high speeds, we can actually contract that view a little bit. We can
Okay.
automatically do that. I mean, perfect for the Autobahn where those speeds are crazy high. You could just contract it so things aren't flying past you on the edges of that display. But at slow speeds, or as you come to a stop at a stop sign, expanding it so you can see the bicyclists and the pedestrians and other traffic that you're in.
And this is
Well-
something that it will happen automatically. Like I don't need to
Exactly.
say I'm on the Autobahn or I'm backing up. It's just
Nope.
like, no, you've hit a certain speed, time
Because
to
it's
change
on the
view.
vehicle
Or,
bus. Exactly.
Okay.
Because we're on the vehicle bus, we'll have that speed input. We'll know how fast the vehicle is traveling, and we can adjust that automatically.
that's
We're
really
also
cool.
going to do something called side blind zone assist. So if there's a vehicle alongside you, we'll know that. We'll get a signal from the vehicle side blind zone system, and we can actually then show a little inset image of that car as it's behind you. Because again, we're capturing a wide image. We're only showing a small portion, but we can go find that car in the portion that we're not showing and then put a little inset image of that right in the mirror so you can see that. And then the final thing we're doing is looking at if you have a truck, typically we're showing the view just off the tailgate, right? We aim that camera, we're grabbing a view just off the tailgate, but the camera is seeing at the same time into the bed of the truck. So we can, again, grab that portion, put that into the mirror so you'll have a bed cam view showing you if you need to monitor the bed of your truck for some reason, that can be shown simultaneously. So it's a lot of things that are just cool features. Some of them are definitely safety, but all of them start to address some of those drawbacks of the original system that you were mentioning earlier.
I love the idea of having these different views in there because automakers do that with their cameras that aren't part of the rear view camera that
Yep.
show you, but then they put them up in weird spots. Like suddenly it takes over part of your instrument cluster, or you're in a city and you're looking at really complicated directions. Like, no, now I chose you to show you the right hand side of your car instead. You're like, I need to know when I turn. So putting it up in the rear view mirror in that area, that there's no other thing other than vision that's happening up there. So it's actually kind
Right.
of a brilliant idea.
Yeah, the mirror is definitely in our natural scan pattern. When the Kids Transportation Safety Act, when we needed to put that rear camera to prevent backover accidents, most
Right.
automakers chose to put that in the center console somewhere. And you're right, it's not in your natural scan pattern. And we've had to learn to incorporate this fourth location. You have outside
Yeah.
mirrors, 2 of them, an inside mirror, and now suddenly we're trying to bring in this fourth location. Like you said, this is a very natural location for some of those features.
I like that idea. That's neat. Make that happen now.
Yeah, but just before you started talking about having the blind zone assist information in there, I was about to ask you if you were looking at integrating with some of the other driver assist features on the vehicle to perhaps when there is something in the view that the driver should be particularly aware of, maybe throw a bounding box around it or highlight
Exactly.
something.
And those are things we've experimented with, and we actually have versions of that here where you can actually we have software to identify pedestrians, identify vehicles, identify bicycles. It's just a matter of does an automaker find that value and want to provide that to their customers. So we show those things, but then it's up to an automaker to say, yeah, I want that in my system.
Do you have any idea of just how likely the automakers are? Like, if you've shown them anything, is there any kind of feedback on that yet?
Oh, everybody that's seen the next generation full display mirror is gravitating towards that. It'll just be a matter of time. Yep.
Cool.
Fantastic.
That's amazing.
Any other questions, Nicole?
No, he answered all my questions. I feel
All right.
better about the technology
Craig,
there.
Craig, anything
You've
else you
sold
want to
me on
add
it.
about cool stuff that Gentex has coming down the
Oh,
stream?
goodness. This product, like most of our mirrors, comes with other features, and that's where even this next gen FDM, we have a version that's scalable, so you can still integrate HomeLink, which is our car to home automation system. So buttons that could be programmed to operate gates, garage doors, home lighting, home automation. That's part of this system. We actually have a version that will do a dash cam. So it's an integrated dash cam. So it's got a camera looking forward. We use the rear camera's view. We can, on demand, press a button and you can capture the 10 seconds of video. Or if there's airbag deployment, we capture that video, right? And then we're actually implementing a secondary camera, Wi-Fi camera that could be placed on the back of a trailer. We're doing trailer cam, or theoretically you could put it interior and use it as a baby cam and a rearward facing car seat. So these are just some of the other additional additional features that will be part of this system in the future.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Craig. This has been great.
Yeah, thanks,
Certainly.
Craig. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to hit stop now, and then. All right, and the second interview we've got for today, it was Nicole and I sat down with Matt McAlear, who is the CEO of both the Dodge and Chrysler brands now. We talked about Matt a couple weeks ago when we mentioned that Chris Fuel was leaving Chrysler. Matt is now running both of those brands. And Nicole and I sat down with him at the New York show last week to get some thoughts on what's going on with those two brands. And we'll run that here. And actually, before we run that, let's go ahead and say goodbye. And we'll talk to you next time. And just keep listening to the interview with Matt. Bye.
See ya. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Matt McAlear, CEO of Dodge and now CEO of Chrysler as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Been busy few weeks.
yeah.
I felt like you were running around when we were at the Dodge program up north, and I'm like, why is he so crazy? And a day later, I'm like,
Yeah, that's what we were doing.
oh, it all becomes clear.
So, Chrysler, you're now down to one official nameplate. The Voyager's been rolled back into Pacifica again.
Well, good. It's
you know.
a lot easier to double nameplates than when you start with one.
Yeah, exactly. Very good point. So, I guess let's start with, besides the obvious front refresh on the Pacifica, anything else changing for 2027?
Yeah, a lot of evolutionary things. So in addition to the refresh, which only isn't just looks, it also 17% better light visibility. And as we move around to the side of the car, we've got 5 new wheels, finishes and designs coming. We've got 5 new exterior paint colors, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for the last couple of years.
You got a couple of pretty bold colors. I like that blue there.
The hydro blue, yeah. And then we've brought the evolution of the wing badge to the rear of the tailgate. And then the big thing on the tailgate is now you're able to set the opening height. So if you lived in a lower garage or you parked in a parking garage where, maybe it would always bump the top, now you can set that lower if you need to.
Wasn't a thing on the old one? I don't think I even realized that wasn't a thing.
It was always full open or full
I'm
close.
glad I never tried to open it in my garage. That would have gone poorly for me.
Now you can change.
Now I could do that.
And then on the interior, we moved in. We brought the new blue agave leather into the Pinnacle, which we have the one you were sitting in. And then we put some evolution of the safety and security features with turn signal activated blind spot cameras, and then the forward sensing cameras when you're parking. The beepers start to go off. Now the camera automatically turns on inside. And then we still have, stow and go and fam cam and stow and back and all of some of the things that just make us different in the segment.
For the blind spot cameras, does that show up in the center display or in the instrument cluster?
Center display.
Okay.
And you can turn that on or off if you like it or don't like it.
Okay. So, you've also now lost the plug-in hybrid powertrain, so you're down to just the Pentastar. Was there any thought to maybe doing something with the new hybrid system that you have in the Cherokee? Maybe bring something like that into here?
Yeah, we're always looking at the iterations as we go forward of how we balance our corporate fuel economy as well as our greenhouse gas across all of our nameplates, as we brought out the full battery electrics on the Charger and the Wagoneer and now the Recon. So we're always looking at that and the iteration of how we can evolve our powertrains. Hybrids, I think, are obviously one of the powertrains going to be important for the future. But with this model right now, I think it's such a great fit with the Pentastar, the 9-speed, the all-wheel drive capability, the stow and go 1, 2nd, and 3rd row, best-in-class towing. This vehicle truly kind of those two separate itself from the other nameplates in the segment. So I think we're excited to kind of get that knowledge back out there again, and to kind of focus your marketing on one initiative versus 2 powertrains in a segment that a lot of time people are buying for ease and simplicity and not necessarily trying to figure out which one's the right one for me. And I'm excited about this model, this launch, and I think it's the right time as we start to see the segment growing, forecasted to grow year over year for the 2nd and 3rd straight year.
So minivans are still growing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Growing
nice.
again.
Growing again,
Yeah.
continuing to grow again. So you've got one car in the minivan, and to double it, you need to introduce one more car to double your product line. How much can you share about what the plans are for that? What have you shared? What can you say that I'm not gonna have her staring at me and giving
Yeah,
me the
well,
look.
no, I think the exciting thing is that we have our Investor Day presentation coming up next month, May 21st in Auburn Hills, where Antonio and the team are going to lay out the future of many of our brands, and Chrysler is one of those brands. So
Okay.
we don't have to wait too long. Today we're focused on, obviously, the launch of this vehicle, but Chrysler has an important future, and we're excited to disclose and show all that next month.
So I have to wait, like,
So, but we will see more from the Chrysler brand going forward.
Yes.
Okay. That's good to hear.
confirmation that it's still happening.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it.
Because I mean, we've been hearing that for a number of years now, and haven't seen anything yet. So hopefully we'll see something in the not too distant future.
So May 21st, she'll stop smirking and just
21st or the 12th?
actually
21st.
21st,
Okay.
right? You
Just
said
the,
21st?
like
Okay.
like the email I got from you last week mentioned the 12th, but at any rate, it doesn't matter. Or no, maybe somebody else I was talking to.
I don't know,
can't remember.
it's 21st.
Okay.
Okay. Look, we're going with the 21st.
Perfect.
Okay, that works.
So let's shift over to Dodge.
Yeah.
You've got another special edition of Durango now too.
Yeah, so it was an exciting day. Durango is one of those cars that it just continues to set records, and we had our best sales year in 20 years last year, and this year has already started off. Vehicles are turning extremely quick. We announced the V8 only strategy back in Roadkill Nights, and demand was so high as we ramp up for Hemis, we had to bring back some production of the V6 to meet consumer demand. We continue to see them turn extremely fast. The Durango SRT Hellcat with the jailbreak is now available in all 50 states, so people are extremely excited about that. We opened last week for the return of the 392 into the Durango, and we took enough orders in the first 6 hours to cover the remainder of the 26 model year production, and people are super excited. That's the most horsepower available in the segment under $50,000, 475 horsepower under 50 with all-wheel drive and 7 passes chute.
So if you order one today, now it's 2027. It's that far out?
Well, it depends on the dealer. So we just went into allocation, and now so dealers put all their orders in. Now we got to figure out, okay, did the right dealers put them in? Who earns the allocation? Do all what we call balance out, is the behind the scenes and making sure they go to the right places.
Baseball expressions.
But then, we'll quickly be turning to 27 model year. And then, so to follow on the heels of the 392, we launched the America's 250 edition today, which is the first of our 4 brands to show the buzz models are coming. Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram also have an A250 edition coming, which we kind of showed on the spotlight in the background today on the slides. But that's a neat appearance package that is super cool. And with the stars and stripes and the blue tracer on the outside, the first time we've done a blue, petrol blue interior with the black Laguna, red seat belts, red and white stitching. It's pretty neat.
So the Durango in its current form been around for what, 12, 13 years now, and it's pretty impressive that you're still getting sales records with that after such a long time on the market. Yeah, it's had some tweaks over the years, but it's still basically the same as what you launched. I think about 2012. I think.
Yeah, and then we did a refresh in 15 and then 21. So,
So the rest of the lineup. See, the Hornet's gone now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's just the Chargers, the various Chargers. Right. How's that going so far?
So it's terrific. We're just still in ramp-up mode. So obviously last year we launched the 670 horsepower Daytona BEV, and then we started shipping a few months ago the 550 horsepower twin-turbo inline six-pack. So we've transitioned production from focused on the battery electric with the changes in regulatory to now focus on our ICE production. We've shipped the 2-door high outputs, the Scat Packs now for a few months, and then just last month we started shipping the rest of the lineup. So now we've got 2-door and 4-door Scat Packs, and we have 2-door and 4-door RTs, which are the 420 horsepower. So by middle of April, we'll start having cars fairly in all 2-door, 4-door, 420, 550 available across the country. So May will be our first kind of full month with good dealer stock around the country. And we just started the marketing launch last month in March, mid-month as we went into NCAAs. So things are starting. We've had month-over-month growth this month. We're starting to see dealers excited. They're turning the cars quick. But it's still early in the launch. So second half of the year is going to be extremely exciting for Dodge, as we've got the 392 back in the Durango. We've got all of our Chargers on the lot and starting to hit our sales pace again.
You're talking about that you called it A250, the American.
Yeah.
I haven't heard you call it the A250. I like the lingo. How did that come to be? Because that's a big deal, the 250. How did you guys decide, like, we're behind this?
So that was all the way up to John Elkin and the team that decided that Stellantis was going to be the exclusive automotive partnership of the America's 250 bipartisan celebration of our birthday. So once that happened, obviously we worked with the design studio and our teams to design a buzz model around A250, and then Olivier and team are working on a lot more from a marketing standpoint, some activations over the summer as we go into the actual birthday around July 4th. So look for more to come, and obviously the other brands are still going to unveil theirs, and it'll be exciting.
Very cool.
Going back to the six-pack and the Charger, what's the customer response been to that so far?
The customer response is, oh my gosh, once I drive it.
That's always the challenge, is getting people behind the.
Well, that's why we invite you guys out to the ride and drives and make you do it for us, right? Because a dealer buddy of mine always says you have to grip the wheel to seal the deal, and that's just it. People, they hear it online, they read about it online, but seeing's believing, and it didn't win 5 Car of the Year awards for not being impressive. And when you actually feel what all-wheel drive and 531 pound-feet of torque can do and pin you to the back of the seat, or you can put in full rear-wheel drive mode and roast the tires, I mean, it is absolutely, it's in a white space. It's always done what Dodge has done well, and that is build something that's different. And I mean, it's a full-size, almost as wide as you can get in the industry without running lights. It's got SUV-like cargo capability, all-wheel drive capability.
So if it was any wider, it would need running lights.
Yeah, 8 to 5 inches.
Yeah, it's like that much of needed running lights.
No kidding. That's kind of cool.
With incredible rear leg room. I've taken it on road trips with people in the back, and it's unlike anything else you can buy. Is it a track car? Is it a pony car? That's never what it was intended to be. It's Dodge. It's a muscle car. It's take your friends and family
Dodge
with you. Yeah.
And the Daytona, is a great cruiser.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When I drove the Daytona at the launch, the impression I came away from was, forget about the fact that it's electric. Just drive it. Just get in and drive it. And I think that's part of the problem, is getting people to get past whatever might be propelling this thing and just try it out. And I think if people would do that, they, either one, the six-pack or the electric, they would probably say, okay, maybe I don't need a V8 right now.
Well, you start to see it on the forums, and you start reading about it, and you're like, okay, I went and test drove it. I didn't think I was going to love it. I bought it. I mean, it doesn't take long for people to realize, yeah, this is something special. And it doesn't mean you have to fall out of love with V8s, right? We're not telling you to get rid of any of that. We still have standard V8s and Durangos.
Got them all over the line.
Yeah, we're not saying fall out, but we're saying if you want something that's far superior than your V8 that outgoing on the 5.7 to 6.4, those float away all day long.
And what do you think, like, where the Dodge brand is now, where you have the EV and you have the Durango and you have the gas chargers? What do you hope the public perception is? They look at this, they're here, they see this. What do you hope they think when they see that?
I hope they just say, okay, we weren't sure maybe for a year, but Dodge is back. We should have trusted them. We shouldn't have maybe been quite so vocal. At the end of the day, do I mind the people being vocal? No, I'd rather have them talking than not talking, right? We still have such a passionate fan base, and when we release a social video or an ad, the number of people that engage is just overwhelming. So I keep doing that. Keep pushing us. Are we done with that car? Absolutely not. I mean, you look what we've done in a year and what we've brought out: 2-door, 4-door, 420, 550, 670. Colors, wheels, that's just in 1 year. We got a lot of stuff we're still working on. You never get it right out of the gate. If you got it right out of the gate, you'd have one car and be done and never have to evolve. There wouldn't be new cars. You just get it. So yeah, you're always pushing the boundaries, always making things better, and I'm excited for the future.
So what you're saying is the Charger Hellcat is coming back.
I love to see, there it is. There's no, he did not say that. He did not say that. Clarify for the podcast. The handler's like, no.
Anything else?
No, that covers it for me.
All right.
Terrific. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt.
It's good seeing you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, as always.